Hey everyone, Mr. DVB here, so welcome to the very first episode in my brand new weekly series, Movie Battles, in which every single Monday I'll be pitting two films together to decide which one is better. Today I'm going to be looking at two classic Steven Spielberg films, 1975's Jaws versus 1993's Jurassic Park. These are two of my favorite movies of all time, and they're actually very similar in a lot of aspects, so I thought this would be a really cool first video to make. So without further ado, let's jump into this and find out which one will be crowned the victor. So the story in Jaws centers around a shark that has been going around and killing people near the island of Amity, which is known for its perfect summer beaches that attract tourists from all over the country to come and visit. It is currently the 4th of July weekend and they are expecting a ton of visitors, so the mayor is very hesitant on closing the beaches down as he wants to make as much money as possible. But of course the shark is still out there, so Chief Police Martin Brody teams up with marine biologist Matt Hooper and shark hunter Quint so they can go out and kill this shark. Now moving on to Jurassic Park, this movie's story is about a group of people who have been invited to take a preview tour of a theme park that is owned by Dr. Hammond, a man who has found a way to clone dinosaurs so he can bring them to life as a main attraction for his theme park. The power ends up going out, and because of this, all the dinosaurs break out on the loose and wreak havoc on this island, and now these people have to escape. So when it comes to the stories of these films, I think they are both great. Jaws is definitely the more simplistic of the two, but I do love the story of this shark going around and killing people, and then of course the final act is just fantastic with all these characters out on the boat trying to kill this shark. I love the thriller aspect of this movie overall. It's definitely a terrifying film. On the other hand, you have Jurassic Park, which in my opinion is definitely the more creative / original story of the two. Not to say that Jaws has a bad story at all, I just think that Jurassic Park is more creative with the idea of cloning dinosaurs and bringing them back to life for a theme park. So round one for the story is going to go to Jurassic Park.
Boy, do I hate being right all the time.
Moving on to round two, we have the characters. So I'm going to start off with Jaws once again for this round. I honestly love Police Chief Martin Brody in this movie, played by Roy Scheider. I think he does a really great job in this role. One of the things I love about the characters in Jaws is that to me, they all feel very human. You also have Robert Shaw as Quint, who adds a ton of comedic value to this movie. He is just hilarious, and there's also some really great moments with him, especially later on in the film when they're on the boat. He's talking about his history with the US Navy and how he was a part of the Indianapolis, which is a ship that went down. That scene is honestly fantastic. His acting there is top notch, and I think he's really great in this movie. And then you also have Richard Dreyfuss, who plays Matt Hooper, who also adds a ton of comedic value to this movie. He's a really fun character, and I really enjoy the banter between these three. Besides them, you don't really have that many other characters. You do have a few like the mayor, who is very stubborn and is honestly an idiot when it comes to how he's handling this whole situation with the shark. He is definitely a likable character, but besides them, there's not too many characters in Jaws. But the ones that are there, the main three, are fantastic in my opinion. On the other hand, you have Jurassic Park, which has a ton of characters. First of all, you have Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill, who does a really good job in this movie. I think he's a likable protagonist. You have Laura Dern as Ellie Sattler, who is kind of his love relationship in a way. She's also very great in the movie. Jeff Goldblum adds a ton of comedic value as Ian Malcolm, who is also a hilarious character. And then of course you have Richard Attenborough as Hammond, who is really nice. Then you have the kids, Lex and Tim. And then on top of that, you also have Samuel Jackson, Wayne Knight. You have Muldoon, the hunter character, and then you have the lawyer. So there is definitely a lot more characters in Jurassic Park. And one of the things that it does very well with its characters is that they're all likable. They each have different aspects so they can bring something different to the table. For example, the two kids even have their own useful traits. Like Lex is really good with computers and hacking. Tim is really good with his knowledge on dinosaurs and that kind of stuff. So there's just little likable things like that with these characters. But when it comes to which characters I like more, I honestly prefer the three main characters in Jaws. I think they are given much more depth throughout the film. There's a lot more character building moments, little tiny moments in the film that really don't exist in Jurassic Park in my opinion. For example, you have the scene in Jaws when Roy Scheider's character, Martin Brody, is sitting at the dinner table and his son is mimicking him, so they start having this little mimicking game with each other. It's a really small but sweet moment, and that kind of just builds up on his character. Obviously, you have the boat scene, which that entire section just adds a ton of depth to these characters, seeing the banter between them. It's really hilarious and funny. You have the moment when they're all comparing their scars to each other and their stories that they've had, when they're singing and drinking. It's all fun. And then, like I said earlier, you have Robert Shaw's moment where he gives his monologue, which is such a fantastic scene. In my opinion, there's nothing in Jurassic Park character related that comes close to that scene. So overall, I'm gonna have to give the character round to Jaws just because I think they are given that much more depth. But I can definitely see where people would go for Jurassic Park on this one, just because of the fact that there are so many more characters and they are all still likable. But I just overall think that the characters in Jaws are given more depth, and therefore I like them more. Alright, moving on to round 3, we have the monster, and here's my little monster. This is Lola. Wait, okay, bye, cat. So, yeah, the monsters, the whole point of these films, basically. In Jaws, you have a 25-foot long great white shark that was made mechanically, and one of the things with Jaws is the mechanical shark did not work most of the time, so this required Steven Spielberg to use a lot of underwater POV shots, kind of showing the, first-person view of the shark, what the shark sees underwater. So you have all these really creepy and honestly suspense-building scenes. And the shark in this movie is just absolutely terrifying. These sequences are extremely scary. Every single time I go into a body of water now, whether it's an ocean or a lake, I just always have this thought of what the hell is underneath my feet right now. I've always had that feeling. I'm sure most of you guys do after watching Jaws. Just the whole idea of something underneath you that you can't even see because of the pitch dark. It really creeps me out, honestly. So the shark in this movie is absolutely terrifying. Obviously, in the third act, you see a lot more of it, and the practical effects that were done for the shark still hold up marvelously today. This shark still looks absolutely fantastic, so the practical effects done here were great, and I honestly just think the shark is such a terrifying creature. Moving on to Jurassic Park, we have the whole collection of dinosaurs in this movie, whether it's the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which looks fantastic from a practical standpoint. I do think the CGI effects have aged a ton in Jurassic Park, but the practical effects for the T-Rex are amazing. This thing looks so cool. There are some awesome scenes. I absolutely love the Jeep scene when it's pushing over the trucks and everything. That is such a great moment. So the T-Rex in this movie is fantastic. And then you have the raptors, which are also really awesome. I love the kitchen scene and all these moments with them and their little claws unlocking doors. It's so cool. And then of course you have all these other dinosaurs like herbivores. You have the Bronchiosaurus, which are just amazing looking. So there are so many really great dinosaurs in this film. So of the two, which one do I prefer? Well, this is a really tough round because the dinosaurs are obviously so damn cool, and seeing them on the big screen is just fantastic. But these films are thrillers, so which one of those two really works better in that aspect? I'd honestly have to say the shark in Jaws is definitely the more terrifying of the two. Just the whole underwater scenes and everything makes it so damn creepy, so I'm gonna have to give this round to the shark in Jaws for just being so terrifying. With that being said, the dinosaurs are still so freaking cool, so that's why this round was really tough. Moving on to round 4, we have the soundtrack. So both of these movies are composed by the god himself, John Williams. I think he is most people's favorite composer of all time. He is definitely mine when it comes to cinematic history. He is just so damn good. Whether it's the Indiana Jones films or the Star Wars movies, he has made so many soundtracks, and he's just a master when it comes to composing. So, Jaws versus Jurassic Park. I'll start off with Jaws for this one. This movie's score is one of the most memorable of all time. It is such a suspenseful theme that it's, just rising the entire time. Building up the suspense when the shark is going to attack its next victim, and the rest of the soundtrack is really nice as well. but not as memorable as the main score. When most people think of Jaws, they just think of the dun 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 dun, whereas Jurassic Park, on the other hand, has an entirely memorable soundtrack. You have the main score, obviously. But then also you have, on top of that, the helicopter sequence, which has an even more memorable score in my opinion. So this round is actually pretty easy for me. It's gonna have to go to Jurassic Park. Even though I love the main theme for Jaws, Jurassic Park's whole soundtrack is just extremely memorable, and I can't really say the same thing for Jaws, so because of that, I'm gonna give this round to Jurassic Park. Alright guys, here we are with the fifth and final round, the effect on cinema. What did these films do to really change cinematic history? I'll be starting off with Jurassic Park for this one. So prior to 1993, computer-generated effects were definitely used in movies, especially in films like Star Wars, but movies like that did use a ton of practical effects as well. So I would argue that Jurassic Park is one of the first movies to really push CGI as much as it did. Most of this movie was just completely computer-generated when it came to the dinosaurs. Obviously, there are a ton of exceptions when it comes to the close-up practical effects, but a lot of the dinosaurs here were CGI. And for this movie's time, the effects were obviously mind-blowing. Nowadays, they have certainly aged a ton, but there is no arguing against the fact that this movie did a ton when it came to computer-generated image. Also, this was really the first really huge dinosaur movie. Prior to this, there were obviously films that had dinosaurs in them, King Kong, but, you know, really this was the first big dinosaur movie. And then we move over to Jaws. So what did this movie do for cinema? Well, Jaws practically created summer blockbusters. Prior to Jaws' release, major movie studios would honestly ignore summer for releasing their big blockbuster films. They believed it was just a time where tons of people would be outside and ignoring the movie theater. But then Jaws came along. This movie was released in the summer, and it became the highest grossing movie of all time. And ever since, most movies that are big blockbusters are released in the summer. There are obviously some exceptions, but movies are usually released in that April to August season when they are big, explosive action films. And before Jaws, that wasn't really the case. So this movie was huge in that sense. And then on top of that, every single time a person goes in the ocean, if they know of Jaws, they are usually thinking about that movie because the shark and just the way that movie was made was so terrifying for its time, and it still is terrifying today. You can have any person watch this movie and they will probably not want to go anywhere near water for at least a few days. So because of that, Jaws definitely had a huge effect on cinema. Now, like I said, Jurassic Park did have some effects with the fact that it was the first film to really use a ton of CGI. I would honestly have to say that Jaws had the way bigger effect when it comes to cinema. So the fifth and final round is going to be going to Jaws. So there you have it, guys. By a score of 3-2, Jaws takes the cake for me. Both of these films I absolutely love. I definitely have grown up with Jurassic Park. I believe I first watched it when I was around 4 years old or so. I don't think I watched Jaws till I was around 8, but that movie was just such an amazing experience for me. And ever since then, I've just loved everything about it. The characters, the pace, the story, everything that movie is so well done. That's not to say that it's not well done in Jurassic Park. Both films are masterpieces in my opinion. I just prefer Jaws. So let me know down below which of the two films do you guys prefer. I do realize that a lot of people prefer Jurassic Park, but I'm still interested in hearing your guys' thoughts. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you all next time.